Hi guys, I'm Profits from wowprofits.com. Welcome to the next in a series of gold making videos that I'm producing specifically around the add-on called Trade Skill Master. In this video we're going to be discussing within the groups functionality of Trade Skill Master, import and export functionality, and what this actually means. So let's get started. First, let's create a temporary group that we're going to be importing and exporting items from. So I'm going to click on the top groups. I'm going to call this importing test. And I'm going to keep this default checked, which will bring me right to the group. So when you select any of the groups that you currently have created, this one in this video will be my importing test group. In the items section, on the items tab, notice again we talked about operations, items, import and export, and in a prior video I talked about management of groups. In the items tab, notice there's nothing in this group yet. So in order for a group to do something, it needs to have inventory in that group or items in that group. So let's go into import and let's talk about this import items section first. You can left click in here. What this allows you to do is if you know item IDs of the items you want to move into this group, you can enter the item IDs there. Or if you wanted to enter single items into this group, for instance, let me check my bag. I'll open up my bag space here. And then notice I have some gray items that I'm just going to be messing around, or white items that I'm going to be messing around with here. Notice if I just shift click on these items, shift, hold down the shift key, left click, notice it links it in there, almost like if you're going to link something in chat or in a party or a group text. And then there's an OK button. I can shift click on any item in my bag and then I can hit the OK button. By doing this, notice if I go into items now, I move that item from my bag into this section. It didn't physically move it, but it allowed the item to be maintained in this group called importing test group now. So it gives this group the ability to be able to manage these items. Even if you don't have the items in your bag, you're able to do it if you know the item ID, or you can shift link and link it into the import. So let's go back into the import tab, and I'm going to add another item. I'm going to shift click on this ornate blunderbuss, and I'm going to hit the OK button, or you can hit enter. Notice if I go into items now, I have now validated 2 items are in this group. So that's a long process and it's a manual process, especially let's say you wanted to add hundreds of items that you wanted to manage. An example for this would be what I call my green group, which I flip. It's 77 to 80 Cataclysm greens with a certain item level, and 83 to 84 Pandaria greens, meaning uncommon, green armor and weapons, of a certain item level. So if I go into this group and I go into items, notice there's a lot of items in here. So that would be a lot of shift clicking to move it manually. So shift clicking in an import string is only if you wanted to move manual items around and you have them in your bags and you're capable of doing it. There's add-ons that will allow you to, like Linkopedia, that will allow you to type wildcard anything, like vial of the, and it will actually query it and give you the link that you can actually shift click on. So you don't necessarily even have to have it in your bag. I'll put the details of those add-ons into the text below this video. But for now, let's talk about bulk importing. So let's go back to the importing test group. Go into items, and we only have 2. So let's say we have a lot of groups or a lot of items we want to import. Well, you have to get them from somewhere, the item IDs. You can go to Wowhead and you can export item IDs and so forth. The one that I'm going to use as an example is, again, my green groups. So I'm going to drag over a document here. This is a Word document that I freely share. This is my green import and export list. And what I did here is it's a Google Doc, and I'll put that below in the video as well, so you can link right to it and feel free to use it. But what I did here is I broke down the item levels, or the item IDs, sorry, for 77 to 80 Kata, which is item level 272 plus. So I broke down all the items here for weapons, all of them for armor, and then if you wanted to just have one group, I broke it, all of them, I combined them into one list of item IDs. I did the same thing for level 83 and 84, item level 363, and so forth. So if we wanted to import, as an example, only weapons, let's just take these weapons. I'm going to copy and paste this. And again, I'm using this as an example, but you notice the concept is you do have to have item IDs to be able to get those from. Another video I might explain how to get these item IDs from Wowhead or other sources. But let's say we had it like this, and you can go into the import now. Notice you want to, again, caution, make sure that you're in the appropriate group before you do imports. If I made a mistake and I imported it into my professions group, guess what? It's going to import into your professions group. Then you have little things, a little mess to clean up. So make sure you're in the right group. I am going to paste, right-click paste, or Control-V, as in Victor, to paste these item IDs in there. I can hit OK, but before you do that, because this is an example, I want to uncheck this box, which says Move Already Grouped Items. This means that if I already have the items in another group, it's not going to move them out of that group into this group. So that's an important thing, because I actually already have these items in this group right here. So if I imported them into this group, it would actually take them out of that group and move them to this group. So I am not going to do that. So I'm going to paste that in here, and I'm going to hit OK. Then what you can do is you can go into the group items, and then you would have the items listed here. The reason I did not do that, now watch the difference. Nothing's listed here because I unchecked that box. Now notice if I paste it in here and I keep this box checked, it will move the items from 77 to 80 into this group. Okay. Items. And here's the items that are listed. Import. Paste them in, move already grouped items, make sure that is checked off, and hit the OK button. Items, here they all are. So now notice if I go into my other group, 77 to 80, there's not a lot of them that are in there because they already moved into the other group. In order for me to get them back into this group, same thing, I would click on this, move already grouped items, paste it in here, hit the OK button, and then the items are back into the 77 to 80 group, my former group. Notice they're out of my group now that I just created, my import group. Again, if you have the item IDs, you want to click on import, paste them in here. By default, it's going to move them out of other groups. So if the items are already attached to other groups or subgroups, it's now going to be moved into whatever group structure you're under. Hit OK. Go back into items. Validate that they're there. Yes, they're there. I want to move them back to my other group, so I have to go into left click on that group, import, export, paste the items in. Again, by default, this is checked. Keep it checked. Hit the OK button. I can go back into my test group, go into items, and they are not there. I moved I moved all of these items back and forth into multiple groups just by doing that. So that's actually the import function. So that allows you, again, the flexibility. If other people have group or item IDs for you, or if you do Google searches, or if you go to the sites like the Consortium, you can actually get other people's inventory or other people's item lists to be able to use. You don't have to reinvent the wheel. You don't have to go and do all the research that other people have already done, because it's there and it's published. I, for one, publish my lists that are right here. So that's importing. Now let's talk about exporting. Exporting allows you to say, let's say I wanted to share with you what my flipping group is. What I can do here is you can click on anything that's here, whether it's a parent group or a subgroup. I'm going to click on flipping, top level parent group, which means if I click on this and I collapse it, notice the subgroups are gone, and now the subgroups are back. Whatever I click on is what's going to export. So if I click on the parent group, it will include all of these subgroups. And again, you can validate it just by collapsing and expanding so you know actually what the scope's going to be when you do an export. An export basically means I'm going to take all the structure, the parent and subgroups or sub-subgroups, and all the items in those groups, and I'm going to export them into what kind of looks like this. So here's my flipping group. Notice it starts with flipping 10 to 19 greens, all the items that are in there. Group 77 to 80, all the items that are in there. So it's basically walking down this tree, if you will, and exporting the name of the subgroup or the group and the items in those groups. That's all it does. It's nothing magical. But let's do that. Let's see what it looks like from a process standpoint. So I'm going to left click on my flipping group. I'm going to go to import export, and on the bottom here is where I want to export. By default, this will be checked off, which means it will actually export the item IDs in the structure or the group structure of subgroups. So if I just simply left click on this button, it's going to pop up a window, and that's exactly my structure. Just to test it out, you can left click in here, Alt A, Alt and the letter A as an apple, and then Control and the letter C for copy. And that will actually export everything that's in that list right there. And then from there you can go to your favorite text editor and you can paste that in if you wanted to share it. But let's say now we wanted to reuse it to import this structure. I already have a group called flipping, so I'm going to create another group called flipping test. Flipping test. And I'm going to click OK. Notice it's there now. Notice there's nothing underneath it. It's only a parent group. Import export. Now I'm going to go to import strings. We already exported it. Now we want to import it. Remember, importing has to do with item IDs or structure that TradeSkill Master is aware of. So I'm going to left click on here, right click. You're going to left click in here, Control V, Victor, Control V as in Victor for pasting. Click the OK button. Watch what happened. All of our structure is now there. If I go into each of the subgroups, items are there. Items are there. If I go into my other group, notice the same thing, items are there. So I duplicated my structure by doing an import and an export. So that's very important to use, especially if you want to share. Again, going back to this document, I share my group structure for my flipping groups. And in the next video, we're going to be talking about breaking down what it means for an operation, an auctioning operation, and a shopping operation, which you also can export and share with people if you want to share your TradeSkill Master organization and the items that you use, as well as some of your operations. So let's get rid of this now. Remember before we talked about groups and how to delete in groups structure. I'm going to click on the parent group, management, delete, and it's gone. That quickly. It deleted the top level group and all the groups below. Notice there's no confirmation, guys, so be extremely careful when you're using that management tab and you're deleting and moving things around. Things can get very scary very fast if you're not paying attention. So making sure that all the items are in the flipping group, there they are. Everything looks like it's intact. Looks beautiful. Import testing group is still there. Perfect. Let's delete this group. Left click it, management, delete, and it's gone. So that's it, ladies and gentlemen, for the groups of importing and exporting. Again, the groups, group icon, subgroups or the parent group. Third tab, import export, again allows you to rapidly import and export items, group structures, share it with your friends, because I think that's important. So again, thank you very much for watching this video. I'm Profits from WildProfits.com. On the next video, we'll go into a little bit more deeper into this first tab of operations. Until then, happy earnings.